Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast presented by Zwift for what was supposed to be a boring transition sprint stage of Volta Catalunya and actually turned into, frankly, one of the best stages of the year that we've seen so far. Incredible stage. They took out the final climb, maybe for safety reasons. I don't actually know why they did that. So it turned into 175 k's from Martorell to Molins de Rey. And it's hilly all day with one categorized climb, but really it's always up and down. And then the Alta la Croix d'Aragall, I can't do it. The Spanish name's Cruce, it's cross of something. 5.6k, 6%. It's actually a hard climb. It has 13% pinch in it, according to the TV graphic at least. That crests 28k's from the finish, which is like a step descent. Mount Nebo aficionados will know it goes up and down. There's little punches throughout the descent, and then they have an intermediate sprint at Paleja, which is Palleja, which is like 10k's from the finish on the flat. So there's also a sprint before. It's a tricky little stage that, with that climb being taken out, there's supposed to be a 2k 9% climb close to the finish. I think if that climb's there, Benji, no way, I don't think, Israel and Cofidis and Alpecin will control a breakaway if that climb is there.
I think so as well. I think then they're maybe looking for a breakaway opportunity instead of what they were looking at here, which was controlling the breakaway from the peloton. Now, it was a long fight for the breakaway, half the stage actually, because I think Jumbo and Quickstep were the ones that were kind of fucking it up for all the other breakaway riders, because we see attacks at the start of multiple Quickstep riders. First of all, I saw a break with Cataneo in it, and I was like, ooh, this is interesting. Is this a satellite rider? What if Remco Evenepoel wants to attack later on in the stage? Then we see a bit later that break gets caught, and we see the next guy, Van Wilder, in the breakaway together with someone else. Monica, I think, from Lotto. That break once again gets absorbed by the peloton. Masnada goes in a break, and this time actually the break gets away. It's a group of 6 riders with Oscar Onley, who has been in the break twice this Catalunya. Was expecting him to try for GC in the first place, considering he has been good in climbs in Andalusia, if my mind serves me right, and last year in Croatia, of course. Or it was Valenciana, one of the two. Anyway, 1 week race in February. In that group as well, Simone Velasco, your pick from yesterday, man. Did you have confidence?
I did, actually. I didn't think they'd drop him on the climb, and I don't think they would have kept him away because Bouchard was in the break. He's the best climber in the breakaway, but 5.6k, 6% is not that long. And then you've got Verona to work with a Velasco behind, and Bouchard is the least aerodynamic rider I've ever seen. If you watch his Tour of the Alps stage win, he's a pure climber. He's like the OG textbook pure climber. I really like Bouchard. But keeping a solo gap on a 25k step descent, he will not do. Unless they have group 2 syndrome. Anyway, I like Velasco. So he's got one of those ones where he's Italian, right? But he's got, I always pronounce his name like he's Spanish, like Brambilla. Sorry, not Brambilla. Anyway, Israel, Cofidis controlling. They've got Lecoq. They have Corbin Strong, who came third the other day. Groves is here as well. Alpecin a little less active controlling. And if we sort of fast forward to the base of this climb, we've had the GC teams do a lead out into the base. Did something else happen?
The first intermediate sprint, you're forgetting about Baumann leading out Roglic. You were in the mountains. Your hike? You got a story this time? Attacked by vultures?
No, nothing really. Just like I went up some, like, there's still snow about. It was over 2,000 meters, so there's went up like an ice wall on one side, and the other side I was predicting there'd be no snow because it had sun in the morning, and I was correct. So I didn't have any disasters today. So very happy.
Congratulations. I'm happy that you're still alive. Anyway, outside of that intermediate sprint, we had Baumann leading out Roglic at the first intermediate before the broadcast. Roglic takes 1 second on the Remco Evenepoel there. So at that sprint, 1 second for Roglic. Anyway, back to your story. We're heading towards the climb. The break has roughly 45 seconds. I feel like Jumbo also did some work in the last portion before that climb to tone it down a bit, because they might also have in mind, why does Quickstep have Masnada in the breakaway? What is the plan here? Will Remco Evenepoel try something on this climb, knowing that he might have a satellite rider in Masnada after that climb or something? I would guess that's why Jumbo also closed it down, right?
I think so. You don't want Masnada there over the crest to help a potential Evenepoel move. So that maybe, and also positioning into the base. I think now often this is a really fine line. This isn't even a criticism. This is an observation. On stages like this, it's really tricky to catch the break after the final climb, even though it's far from the finish.
Yeah.
That being said, if you pace super hard with your team at the base, even when the break is already in shot and caught, you risk turning the stage into a stage that is too difficult for your sprinter and not being able to control. It's a really fine balance. And I think Israel maybe erred a little bit too much on the side of bring back the breakaway, which was dead, frankly. Like, they were literally, they had 5 seconds, you could see them, and then Bouchard fuga de la fuga. But he, again, like, don't worry about a solo guy too much. It's not like Jungels and Velasco and the X guy in Valenciana. And I think they went a little bit too hard, Israel.
I potentially agree, to be honest. Now, the advocate of the devil in me says, were they maybe trying to drop a sprinter that they believe doesn't climb as well as Strong?
Gross.
Maybe they consider Strong a better climber, hill rider than Gross. But then again, Gross climbs pretty well. We saw it in Catalunya. The last stage, his numbers in that stage were pretty on point. So, like, I wasn't necessarily seeing Groves be put in danger that easily by just the Israel tempo. But Israel tempo was really strong because the group was really thinning out. They were gapping people, like you mentioned, but maybe they also weren't expecting what happened afterwards. Now, this break is about to get got. We see that break coming close to the peloton. 20 seconds, 10 seconds. Bouchard attacks his fellow teammates there. Not teammates, breakaway companions. And he gets away for a tiny bit, but then we see an attack from the group behind. It's not Roglic, it's not Remco Evenepoel. It's Marc fucking Soler. He's going. He thinks he's Contador again, and he's flying up that hill.
He's so good.
And he gets a gap, right?
Soler is legit probably as good as Contador was when you really think about it. If you do think about it. I love Marc Soler. Anyway, yeah, it's actually a really good attack. And it's such a shame that he lost that time on La Molina. His own fault. But it's still a great attack because you got Almeida in third. This is the best way for UAE to improve their GC position because if Almeida attacks, Remco and Roglic will respond. Nothing will happen. Now, if Soler attacks over 50 seconds back, well, Jumbo and Quickstep not going to immediately respond. And no one really did. And he quickly has 20 seconds. And then Bahrain start pacing with Maida maybe, or Poles, I think, or Pernsteiner. Maybe I think it was Pernsteiner or Keplinger. And they're protecting Landers.
The entire team.
No, it was Keplinger or Pernsteiner. Get made it into descent. And they're protecting Landers fourth on GC. He's on the same time as Soler, I think, but he is ahead of him because of stage finishing positions. So, yeah, protecting that fourth on GC. Bit of a shame, obviously. And Soler's got form for this. He won a Vuelta break last year, similar, but that was from the breakaway. He won a Vuelta stage from Movistar when they had a terrible year in 21, I think. In the first week, maybe it was like a crest of a climb. He went and then held it. He's a good descender, and these are quite good roads for a solo descender. I think compared to the bunch, there's speed bumps, there's everything in this descent coming up. Like, it's not actually the most technical descent of itself. It's when you get into town, it's really tricky. And yeah, fantastic from Soler. And before we get to the big action, that's not even the big action. A word in our show partner, Zwift, the Zwift Hub. If you want to get the best deal in cycling, any tech product, I've now broadened it, the read. Not just the best value trainer on the market, the best value cycling product on the market, a direct drive trainer easy to set up and install with realistic feel for under 500 US or 500 euros, smashing the competitors out of the park. If you want to check it out and jump in and jump onto Zwift, you can go to Zwift.com, get a free 7-day trial when you get that Zwift hub delivered to your door. But yeah, Benji, that wasn't the piece de resistance of this stage. It was Remco.
Yes, Remco Evenepoel. I was expecting something from him, knowing that, well, we saw him was not in the breakaway, but maybe his mind would have been changed by the fact that their quick-step rider in the break was caught and therefore they didn't see the risk valuable. But no. Remco Evenepoel attacks on the left side of the road, and we kind of see it from the helicopter view where he's like going on the left side around the bend, and as a consequence of doing it around the bend, I would see on that view that Roglic wasn't instantly on his wheel. And there was a gap of a solid 10 to 15 meters when that attack started. And Roglic was trying to bridge so quickly towards Remco Evenepoel, and he managed to do it. He's in the wheel, but it was difficult, right?
Yeah, and the way Remco attacked before the bend, he can then cut the bend a bit sharper and faster, and Roglic has to go around the Bahrain train, which aren't reacting to Evenepoel around the bend the long way. It was really good timing from Remco. It seemed to catch Roglic by surprise a little bit. It actually reminds me a lot of the original No Risk No Glory stage.
Yeah.
When Roglic attacked. Similar. It's in Spain. It's the end of the GC position we think is established. It's not that hard a stage. All of a sudden the climb is getting paced really hard and it's actually becoming quite strung out and selective, and then bang, but it's not Rog going. And Remco keeps it up. Soler gets over the climb first. Bahrain are pacing still behind. Now, as they get over the crest with Maida and Haig before, actually, sorry, Jack was pacing on the climb before Maida. And I got no problem with Remco. You keep it up on the climb. You go full gas on the climb. Yeah. You maybe, you have Soler as your bridging point. I'm going to go full gas, even without Roglic helping me. We'll get across to Soler, and then we'll reassess. I got no problem with that. And I think, yeah, I don't see an issue with that. He's taking Roglic away from his teammates. He's 11 seconds behind him on GC. Maybe they'll all work together. I don't know. He could win the sprint. But Roglic should never relay Benji, at least not in the first part.
Exactly. I would say Roglic should never relay, because Remco might in his head actually keep pacing. We've seen it in the last few stages that in certain stages, Remco keeps pacing. So if you're Roglic, you're hoping that he keeps pacing and that he keeps pacing you in the descent and towards the intermediate sprint that happens 6 kilometers before the finish line here. So that's like an ideal situation, right? Remco keeps pacing you and you try and beat him in the intermediate sprint without having paced the entire time. That's like a logical way to go if
maybe
you're
to the
Roglic.
finish.
So maybe to the finish. Why not? Let's take it. But it's also an intriguing descent, because while Remco keeps pacing into the descent, there are these sections where it kind of goes very steep uphill for a second. Like, I'm guessing 7-8% for like steep. 200 meters. And we see Soler having a bit more trouble at the front. The gap is closing down. It's like 4 or 5 seconds in these narrow descents on these steep parts. And Remco closes it down with Roglic in the wheel. And then it's kind of opened up again for like 2 seconds, but they close it down again. And then we get the view from the peloton, who's much closer now. They're like literally a helicopter view. Right side of the view, you have Remco, Soler, and Roglic. And on the left side, 200 meters behind, was Bahrain pacing like mad. So they must have torched one of those like uphill sections, because otherwise you're not that close suddenly. Or they were faster in the descent, which is also a possibility. Then again, Soler is not a shit descender. Remco's usually... Yeah?
I think Bahrain full sent a couple of the pinches and it just ripped the peloton apart, and Hayter's dropped at this point. Ineos hadn't been working as much today, but that's Hayter done for. We have no idea who's in the group, really. I see Almeida, I see UAE jerseys, and I'm like, maybe that's why Bahrain are pacing. But you can't tell if Groves is there, if Coquard is there, really live. Too much is going on. And I did notice that Remco did close Soler in the descent, but he's still not comfortable on the wheel. I'll die on this hill. He is not as comfortable descending on the wheel because he let Soler's wheel go a couple of times. Now, maybe in isolation, this is, Marc Soler on home roads, taking better lines that no one else can follow. But it's just something I've just, from Brabants last year, something I've been following. I think, he doesn't like being on the wheel as much when it's full gas. That doesn't mean he's a bad descender. Yep. It's like we're talking when it's really on the limit, people are pushing. Anyway, they drop Soler. Remco and Rog go clear.
Exactly. And we also noticed that the group behind, a group that is still led by Bahrain, has less domestiques at the front. So there's like 2 domestiques at that point pacing, and the gap starts to come out again. And that is very noticeable because you're also seeing people drop, like Hater was dropped behind. So that's very intriguing. Like, Thomas is also not pacing anymore. He's trying to get Hater back to the peloton in this ascent as well. So there's a limited amount of domestiques behind, which lengthens the gap again that Remco and Roglic have. And the next obstacle is the 6 kilometers from the line intermediate sprint. And I'm thinking, what can Remco do in this situation? He either stops, because Roglic on paper will torch him from his wheel if he leads out Roglic towards the intermediate sprint. Or the other option is something I doctored while we were with 10K to go. And I was like, what if Remco gives away the 1 second and the intermediate sprint, does a fake sprint, like launches, but goes into the wheel of Roglic afterwards, and then attacks Roglic the second the intermediate sprint ends? There's no way Roglic expects that.
I think anything would have been better than what Remco did, frankly. I mean, I also didn't understand once Soler was dropped and then caught by the group. I didn't know why Bahrain were pacing. They have no sprinter. And the 2 guys up the road are like a minute plus ahead of Lander on GC. So I had no idea why they're chasing full gas after Remco and Roglic, because they're not going to win the stage and they're not going to improve the GC position. And they eventually stopped, but they were the ones that really kept the gap stable at never getting it above 23, 24 seconds. And we just see Remco remonstrating with Roglic over and over, getting increasingly frustrated. And it's like, why would Roglic pull? And also, I think if Roglic was on 30 seconds on GC, he pulls. Because he's still more likely to win the stage. He does 20% of the work, probably less than 20% of the work. He just offers a few pulls. Those 2 fight for the stage win. He loses the stage. He's now on 26 seconds. But
exactly,
he's not on 30 seconds. And so and also, I don't know, this was the Remco where I'm not one of those people. I'm a Remco, not denier. What's the opposite of denier?
Enthusiast.
Yeah, I always say Remco sometimes gets a hard time in the media. But this is one of those examples where he adds a little bit of the fuel to the fire, where if Roglic has said no the first 5 times, then and nothing's changed, he's probably not going to say yes the 7th time, and getting frustrated with him won't really change anything.
Exactly, and you only fuel the haters even more to hate you even more in that kind of situation, but you also fuel your fans to hate on Roglic even more, because they'll be like, oh, the wheel sucker, he's been wheel sucking this entire Catalunya, but that is the right strategy for Roglic. There's no way you can say to Roglic, could you please pace with me? He won't do that, especially because Remco's sprint has gotten so significantly better compared to 2 years ago. If it was 3 years ago with his 500-watt sprint, I was like, Roglic, pace, destroy him everywhere, I'm fine with it. But today, there's no way Roglic should pace at all. But it's fucking funny, eh? The drama, I love it. It fuels the Giro. I am so looking forward to the Giro d'Italia, the rivalry between these 2 men. There's no way they like each other off the bike as much as they might have done a year ago, I think. But then again, the Remco said in the media that the Roglic is his idol.
Yesterday, Remco is very... It's just a heat of the moment stuff. Again, I'm not saying people should hate on Remco for it. I'm just saying this will add fuel to the fire for that. People who have that pre-existing perception of him. But what was clear to me, he didn't have a plan. The plan was to attack, but then there was no plan. And it's also the car, Benji. Shouldn't the car be like telling him, listen,
my plan, right?
He's not pulling, like, maybe stop just pulling Roglic for 25 kilometers in the wheel. Like, they didn't really seem to have a plan B, or what we do if the plan A doesn't work, which is Roglic, which you should expect, by the way, being able to follow on 5K 6%. I kind of think Roglic actually should have pulled to the intermediate. Just one pull. I think, because what happens is they sit up. Remco is frustrated. I really wanted Roglic to attack him when they're on other sides of the road, because that would have been really...
Because Remco goes behind Roglic.
Exactly. Remco could have tried attacking him again from a standstill towards the intermediate, but he didn't try any of that. He just asked him to pull over and over and over and over, and Roglic was like, I'm not going to, and then he just got mad. I think Roglic, I mean, again, it's in the moment how he felt, but if you go the intermediate, you do one pull or so, Remco has spent more than you, he will probably just lead you out in the sprint. You're more likely, I think, to take the second. That doesn't happen. Aguiar pacing behind for Dorian Godon. We saw that in Cadel Evans road race, much to the chagrin of, I think, your boy Bistrom and Schmid. They were clear. I remember them pacing, and it does for them. They're caught, and then a second later, Koen Bowman's back to the front, leading out Roglic. Remco's not in the wind, and Remco has anger watts and destroys Roglic in the sprint for the intermediate. It's his best sprint ever. He could have beaten
Jakobs in 1v1.
Yeah, dude. Should they send him to Gent Wevelgem tomorrow?
3 sprinters.
Yeah.
Just abandon Catalunya, Gent Wevelgem instead.
He had no leader.
Well, Baumann kind of let him out indirectly.
Baumann should have closed him. Loki.
Yes, but legally. We got to add that.
I don't think he could have legally, but yeah, I mean, Mercu would have closed him. So Remco's back on 10 seconds, which is important for tomorrow, because if he's on, I don't know the stage finishing positions, but for example, if he was on 11 seconds, he wins the stage, Roglic doesn't place, Roglic still wins GC as long as they neither take intermediate. So taking that second back is really important for tomorrow, actually. Anyway, we're going into the sprint. Coquard is there, Godon is there, Groves is there, and I think Ida Schelling, Maxim Van Hils, Kroon, as well as, yeah, that's it. Ciccone is getting mixed up, and it's just chaos. Like, Soler counters, I think, again. Landa had attacked on the flat. I've never seen him attack on the flat before. Absolutely goated move. They should have let him go. Despicable that they didn't. And Akiba Kern Farmer guy, eventually Tobias Foss, who's been very, very good as a domestique this week, I think, goes to front, parks it on 400 watts, and says, basta, enough. And just starts pacing towards the line, and we're going to have a sprint. Ooh, Kane Groves has a flat with 3.7 Ks to go. And he's on the radio. I think it was quicker to do the teammate bike change than the bike off the car. It had to be 5 to 7 seconds quicker.
Yeah. Meurise is the guy that stops with him, and he takes Meurice's bike, which is a higher bike, which is like a larger bike than Groves.
Really? And
Groves continues on Meurice's bike based on what I read on the internet after the stage. So could be selling you bullshit, but hey, that's what this podcast is for.
If you saw it on Twitter, it's definitely true. Anyway, I'm like, Groves is out. He's on the wrong bike, which didn't look like it fit him that well. He is at the back of a peloton, which is going through road furniture roundabouts, and he gets back on with, I don't know, 2.5 or something less. And he's lucky that really there are no teams with any domestics left. That's helped. He's also bigger. He can move through the peloton. He had Alpecin teammates. They did a good job bringing him back up. And we have the messiest sprint ever, which also the production, like, no one knew who won live because they switched to the front on shot as they were crossing the line. Good production. And anyway, Caden Groves absolutely mops everybody from the back after the puncture, after a really hard stage. Very, very impressive. Beats poor old Coquard, who must be wondering, damn, he must have thought he had it when Groves is out the back.
Yeah.
Schelling third, Maxim Van Hils fourth, Remco fifth, Kroon sixth, Godon seventh, then Conrad Roglic, Finn Fisher Black. So yeah, Bora another 2 in their lead outs. Not, I got to rewatch it, but maybe they're. Poor old Ida is all I'll say on that one. But Remco, Benji, I could tell. I mean, we've made the Fred Wright jokes over and over about Roglic or whatever, but to me, Roglic almost was like, this ain't worth it in this sprint. He clearly, and in my opinion, cleverly was like, this ain't worth it. This is way too hectic. Groves is coming through like a train against all these tiny climbers. Yeah, and no, and then he comes through, and then Remco's sort of moving a little bit. He's moving that way, and he gives Remco the big don't argue, and Remco just bounces off him. But I think that's what Roglic was trying to avoid.
Yeah, I think so as well. Roglic definitely sat up with X amount of meters to go. I don't know if it was 25 meters to go or so, but you clearly see that Remco keeps sprinting while Roglic is basically stopping. So I'm pretty sure if Roglic also sprints for his life here, that he can top 7 this sprint. Top 6 maybe. His position wasn't as good as Remco's, I think, going into the sprint. Remco getting 5th in a group sprint is pretty strong, but then again, his sprint has severely bettered over the last year. And then again, the furious Watts help as well.
Yeah.
Honestly, he should always be angry. Just always be angry at everybody, because it seems like it actually adds Watts to him. Anyway, Edith Schelling once again a strong performance in a group sprint, which I'm starting to enjoy because he's back alive. I was bit unfortunate that he was not present in the last 2 years, but what a bloody stage, man. Like,
Incredible
if you saw this
stage.
beforehand, you were like, breakaway, group sprint, maybe.
Yeah.
There's one option that Remco Evenepoel attacks on the climb. We mentioned it yesterday as an option, but I believed in it like 5% chance.
Oh, I thought he'd attack. I thought Roglic would close it. I thought he would stop, and then we'd have a sprint.
But hey, looking good, eh? Looking good, eh? For the Giro.
The Giro. I mean, Roglic hasn't put a foot wrong this year. Like, Roglic has not made a single mistake tactically this year. And yeah, he's riding very passive, but he's done everything right so far.
I would argue that if you're a quick step at the moment, don't you say to yourself, well, Landa attacked after the intermediate sprint. Remco responded to that a tiny bit, or was it Soler that attacked after the intermediate sprint? Someone attacked after the intermediate sprint. And Remco responded. Roglic didn't really react to it that quickly. Reacted to it a bit late, but Remco was like, oh, I'm not going to get away anyway. But
yeah,
you think there's something in attacking after an intermediate sprint for Remco?
I think he's got to lean into the aero bullet stuff a bit more. Is what you were saying. It's don't attack. Like, the most Remco's been dropped this week, and obviously I got yesterday's prediction wrong, but the most he's got gapped is on the steepest climb. Yep. On La Molina, he put Roglic in the hurt box and then took a couple of seconds, won that stage. And yeah, he's really hard to bring back on the flat. So him just riding a steady pace with Roglic in the wheel didn't seem very, wasn't probably the right thing to do. I think there's no TT in this race. We have tomorrow's stage, we're going to do a preview of in a second, but I wonder if there was a TT, say Remco's 15 seconds ahead, how that would change things. I don't know, because the Giro obviously has 3 TTs. But I would say the Quick-Step team is extremely strong, as they showed yesterday. I don't think their approach to stages in the overall race is as clinical as Jumbo.
Yep.
This week. Maybe a bit of a self pat on the back there. Not really. Nothing to do with Catalunya. But yeah, like Vos is controlling stage as well. Roglic is, I'm going to go here. This is my strategy. Remco's a little bit more, we'll just do this or we'll just do that. I'll attack here.
Yeah, I think so as well. That's something I would also like to point out, as in, like, for example, I was watching the Quickstep documentary a few days ago, and in their Liège...
Which Benji's in, by the way.
Ooh, hype in the chat. Anyway.
Were you in English?
I was in English, because they wanted to make it more international. So I'm in there for a solid probably 5 minutes, but hey,
because I'm the Dutch speaker of this podcast.
Yeah, you're the Dutch speaker here. Anyway, I was watching that Quickstep documentary, and there's this moment about LBL 2022 where in the car they say, yeah, Remco was thinking about attacking here somewhere on La Redoute. And when you say that, I'm like, shouldn't you know the exact position that he's going to go on this climb? Or at least like it does seem pretty obvious that was a spot to go on La Redoute, right? We said it 3 months before LBL started that was the place to go for Evenepoel in the race. So I'm like, do they doctor out every single potential option, and then afterwards, if a strategy happens, do they doctor out every single situation that could unfold afterwards to be prepared for every situation? Because that's what seemed like felt them today.
Yeah, I mean, it might not matter, and Remco can still win this race, but yeah, I think it's an experience thing. And honestly, I think as I said, Remco can still very easily win this GC tomorrow. He is 10 seconds behind and it's a hard stage, but they have approached this race a little bit. Actually, it reminds me of Roglic in the TDF 2020. That and listen, I thought Remco was the strongest, but that's also why I thought they should pace full gas on Volta, and they didn't. And Remco didn't launch early with Chavez like they did on Laporte yesterday, and it seemed to me a little bit of a we'll take time later. We'll take time later. We'll be stronger later. But Roglic improved. He's improved since Tirreno, evidently from the Watts. So
Yeah.
it kind of reminded me of that a little bit. Whereas, and that's what they're battling against, where Jumbo didn't have the Ineos Sky decade of Grand Tour experience, but they're probably ahead of that in terms of where Quickstep is at the moment, who are still transitioning from focusing on classics. Anyway, just something to monitor. But as Benji said, this is like RCS could not be happier with how ASO's race Catalunya has unfolded.
I think so as well. Now, a quick thing, Michael Simeon on Twitter has posted that like a screenshot of the race where Remco seems to apologize to Roglic after they are caught. So it seems like they're all good and okay. So no imminent drama boxing fight incoming between the two before the Giro as like a hype-up event.
Ignore that.
Okay, we'll choose to ignore that. They're fighting before the Giro. Hand-to-hand combat. Anyway, tomorrow's stage is a stage where last year, I don't even remember what happened last year in the Barcelona stage.
Volta was good. Your boy.
Oh, he's always good because that descent is really good for him.
Yeah.
Now, Bajoli won that in like a reduced sprint, but I recall mostly the UAE battle there where
he's so good.
Ayuso and Almeida fell to ride for each other, and as a consequence, they did not really
and
have
Thomas just went choo 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 choo. What was it? Was that year before?
That was the year before, I think.
I keep getting them confused. Who won Catalunya last year? Higuita,
because of the raid attack with Carapaz on that stage where Ayuso attacked Almeida in the wet descent. So
Fernando Barcelo was third on this stage last year. That is some trivia I would not have got. Okay, to basically explain this stage, it's chill outside of Barcelona to the north west, where Sepp Kuss trains often, and then they come back in through Llobregat, and then they do a loop around the Montjuïc castle in Barcelona near the beach area, which all the British people go to, I think. So it's 2.7 k's, 4.7%. That's a lie. This is a fake news climb. It's like a kilometer at 5% flat, and then 700 meters at 11%. So I don't. It's two separate climbs, and it's basically this big punch at the end. They do 5 repetitions of it at least, I think, and then the last one though is 5.5 k's from the finish, but there's a little punch after it. It's a hard old stage. It's no Pyrenees Stage 8, and we have had less GC changes here compared to Pyrenees Stage 8, mostly because the weather is nice and, it's in Barcelona, road surface is good. But this is tricky for Jumbo tomorrow, Benji and Roglic.
Yeah, I think so as well. Now, Remco's definitely going to attack at some point on any of these Montjuïcs. The question is, where will he do it? I'd expect him to do it relatively early because he wants to make separation and wants to make the race really hard. And I would just want them to launch it on the first, second, or third climb. Probably the second or third climb. The first one looks to be a bit far from the finish line to do that. Third last would be the latest at which I expect the move from Remco Evenepoel. Because one Montjuïc won't be making the difference, I think, between the two. You really want it to be like an endurance race between the two, where Remco can really put pressure across these climbs into Roglic. I think it will be difficult, but it's not impossible. So we will see moves there. It's going to be action. And I actually don't know how the race will unfold as a consequence. It would not shock me that Remco tomorrow risks it all if he attacks and keeps riding with Roglic in the wheel until the line. Because why not on the final stage? Because otherwise you're taking away potential stage win opportunity to sprint at the end.
Maybe. Jumbo are going to want the break to go. obviously. Quickstep are going to want to put guys in the break, I would guess. Although I actually don't know how useful a satellite rider is for Remco, because they're not going to be able to go faster than Remco. If he does get a separation, you may as well use your teammates to just pace really hard for him. So I don't think the break will win because of Quickstep needing those bonus seconds. And Landa also might want to move from 5th to 4th because Soler actually came 3rd in the last intermediate sprint, took a 2nd and moves into 4th. Well, a little note. I think Marc Soler will win the stage, though, in an attack on the last Montjuïc that Remco and Roglic will let go because they've already been responding to attacks from each other, and Soler's not that close on GC. The descent, he will absolutely ping it. And so Soler wins this stage solo in Barcelona.
Oh, I've got a much more endearing scenario. What I want to see is that Remco Evenepoel win the sprint against Roglic in a 1v1 and they're same time in GC, and I have no clue who wins GC. That's the perfect scenario.
If they're 1v1, Roglic only loses 4 seconds.
Yeah, fuck, that's an issue. Oh, my math is wrong. That's a problem. Well, that's boring then.
Remco needs to take an intermediate second.
Yeah.
So he needs to beat Roglic in an intermediate, and he then needs to win the stage and Roglic to not come top 3 or obviously be gapped. So
he needs to attack away.
Yeah.
He needs to drop him. As simple as that.
Yeah. Should be good.
As simple as that. I'm like, simple to drop Roglic on this part. Probably not. It's going to be
good.
I think Remco needs to make it a 1v1 as early as possible on this parkour, and we're going to have a banging stage if that happens. The later he does it, the less of a chance that he can drop Roglic, I think, on this stage. I think it'll be really difficult to drop Roglic either way, but I'd like to see him open it up early.
He has to. That was the problem last year. They opened up too late.
But can he attack him on the flat in between the Montjuïcs instead of the climb itself? Because on the climbs, Roglic will expect it.
I mean, I think Roglic is going to be on his wheel the whole day. He should be. Like, he's the main man to focus on. Otherwise, unfortunate news is that Bernal was involved in a crash during the stage. I think maybe pre-TV coverage, and he had to abandon the race. That was really, I'm not sure it was with Pradas, if my memory serves me correctly. Really a shame that he's coming back into form. He's looking good, getting back, and he crashed and abandons again. He had to abandon. San Juan, he crashed on the earlier stage there, was good on Colorado, but then had a bit of a knee pain, and now he's crashed and abandoned again. So that's really unfortunate. Hopefully he's able to come back soon and it's not too bad and they were just taking precautions because, frankly, they don't have much to race for here. So hopefully it's not too bad and they were just being cautious.
I think so as well. And to be honest, the only thing they can do tomorrow is hope that Hater has a better day than today and gets over these climbs and have a reduced group. But I don't see it either.
Zero chance. Be way too hard.
I don't see it happening either. Now, a final question. We are live streaming this podcast on YouTube at the moment. And there was a question from the man Guzman who donated in the chat. And he asks, what are those artworks behind you? Is it Rick and Morty? He asks.
No, so these are from Leuemans, who's actually designing our merch that we'll be releasing for the Giro. Just before the Giro, it's a little bit of a teaser. We've teased a few of them on Twitter. They're really good custom designs. We've got Tug Buddy stuff. We're really, really, really happy with them. We're not just slapping the logo on some t-shirts. So we think you really like them. But these are some of the designs from last year. One over my right shoulder. That's Leuemans handing me, I think, a bag with a photo of Nairo Quintana in it, and he's like in a cave and lots of other things. These are the relegation battle ones. So the one closest to me here is Arnaud Delis holding a rope that's snapping with John Lelong in the rope falling off a cliff. Unfortunately, that rope snapped. But we never got a follow-up image. And Sylvan Adams is with Lelong, and Vorders is actually making his way off the cliff, and he was able to get over the edge and save himself. The other one is Sagan at Tour de Suisse coming back from the dead last year. Did he win a stage last year? Maro Schmidt looking
Romandy?
good. Yeah, I think it was Romandy or something.
Fuck that.
Yeah, they're great.
Did we do a clip from that? Is Peter Sagan back? We had to have done that.
I don't think we don't think we were that desperate for views, sure.
We did it for Chris Froome on Mont Ventoux Challenge, right?
He was back.
For one day.
He was. Froome went faster on Col de la Couillole than Pogacar did in Paris-Nice. Makes you think. Makes you think.
Interesting. One final thing I want to bring up for a second that you are not prepared for, so I'm just going to do it anyway. Gent-Wevelgem is coming up tomorrow, and obviously it's a wonderful day in Belgium to have Gent-Wevelgem on the calendar. Is it good weather
or bad?
I have no clue, man.
There's wind. Belgium.
There's wind in the morning, I'm pretty sure, which is pretty good.
TV coverage,
because
as
the
usual.
Moeren is pre-TV coverage on, the Moeren is a section before the hills start, and those Moeren is where the echelons tend to occur in this race. Then the hills arrive, and then there's like a flat section afterwards where everything can come together. And that's the intrigue when it comes to Gent-Wevelgem. Will it be a group that gets away on the hills, on the echelons, or will the peloton come together afterwards? I don't care. Jasper Philipsen is going to destroy everybody.
Filippo Ganna's going to win solo. I really liked what I saw at E3. He was out of position before Tyenberg, but I think he'll have no trouble getting over into G1, or if G1 is 2 or 3 riders, he'll certainly be in the larger G2. I think he and Ineos and other riders who don't want to go to the finish with Jasper Philipsen or Merlier will start to move. And I think Ganna is going to fuga de la fuga from that move and then win. I really think he looks good. But we have a nice sprinter start list tomorrow, you know.
Yep.
Merlier and Jacobsen. We'll see how that goes.
Last time they did that at Quickstep was Gelderprijs, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Jasper Philipsen beat Bennett and Cavendish?
I don't think it'll work. I mean, Alpecin did that with Philipsen and Merlier last year and it didn't work. So, I mean, listen, maybe one of them, you know, you increase your chances one of them makes it over the Campbell's the last. I'm looking for a better performance from Benny tomorrow. And that's what I want to see his shape, because he was really out of it in E3. Jumbo got a weird squad. Van Aert, Laporte, and then Van Hooijdonk come in from their E3 team. But then it's Koy, Rosen, Van Dijk, Tim Van Dijk, and Jos van Enden. So I guess, like, this is, if Koy makes it, for sure they'll lead out Koy, right? Otherwise, there is 0 point sending him.
I think so as well, and he would have the best lead out he's ever had if they do that.
Laporte and Van Aert.
Laporte ahead of him. That being said, I think there's a more plausible scenario where Van Aert and Laporte actually are in a group ahead or being attacking on the hills while Koy is their sprinting option. And if that occurs, then it's a question of, well, are they going to pace in the front group with Van Aert and Laporte if that happens? I'm guessing yes. But then again, is Van der Poel in this race as well? He's not. So Alpecin really focusing on Jasper Philipsen here, while Søren Kragh Andersen might be their response to early attacks on the hills and so forth. But anyway, this is a race I'm looking forward to. That should be fun. And hopefully, on one end, you want it to destroy on the Moeren, because that's fun, echelons, but it won't be on TV, so that's the annoying part.
Yeah.
There's one more note about the start list. Molano is not on the start list for UAE Team Emirates, which is unfortunate because he got hit by a car in a training ride in Waregem, I think this morning or yesterday, and somehow he only got away with a concussion and a broken toe, which is insane because, warning if you look up the images, but there's a video where you see the collision with the car and the bike is being thrown away like 25, 30 meters. So he could have gotten away with serious injuries, and he's kind of lucky he's still alive. So
Milano,
I'm happy it's a broken toe.
That sucks. And yeah, Lawrence Pithy's another. Unfortunately, he had a training crash and he was in really good shape. He was, I think, leading the French Cup for FDJ, which is obviously important for them. And he was supposed to do La Rue Torrangelle, and he had a training accident. So best wishes for him, but he's another classics prospect, one to follow, as well as Dali Ewan. We mentioned Merlier Jacobsen. Dali Ewan tomorrow. Can't wait to see it. I do like how this is a very different race to E3 with the sprinters having more of a chance. Because otherwise, like Dwars Dour, I'm not that interested in, frankly.
Yeah, but Ewan's gonna get dropped. Like
Belgian bias.
Ewan's not getting to the final sprint.
Yeah,
I'm so gonna get slapped by Ewan tomorrow when he gets when he gets over all the hills and gonna be like,
I reckon Ewan's got a bit of.
A dog in
I'll
him?
show you. Yeah, well, let's not go too far, but I think
And if he gets to the sprint, he'll be in a shit position anyway. So
Trek got to get a result here. They got to get a top 5 here with Sturven and Pedersen. Like, I mean, they don't have to. They'll still be able to go home to their families. But
they got a top 5 last year, and we weren't happy.
Yeah, but that was shameful. Anyway, can't wait to watch that. We'll have the recap of that as well as the Catalunya stage. Should be a really good afternoon of cycling. And then we'll see you then tomorrow. Until then, ciao.